I don't know whether I'll be able to put this video out because I do feel very, very, very raw at the moment, but I want to say something about how we need to truly respect trauma and overwhelm of the body system and the mind, and to understand why we have to cut off when we go through trauma. Because sometimes things are just too much. It's like trying to tip a bucket of water through a tiny straw, without filters, without anything. It's like, that's a really crap analogy, sorry, but it's like our body systems, our nervous systems aren't designed for too much stimulation all at once. And like for me, I've found music difficult from my trauma because different things really trigger me. Like if I hear like brass instruments or saxophones like screaming, screeching, it's a real trigger for me. Or like guitars screaming, or if there's too much going on all at once. But it triggers me directly into the rape because I was drugged. Like my mind, like everything was blown open from the drug to start off with. But then when he was raping me, obviously I had all his energy going into my body system, like all his anger and his hatred. And I have really felt that a lot of other energies or lost souls or beings flooded my body system and energy system and nervous system at that time as well. And when there's too much, that's why people have to self-harm. It's like it's to try and release some of that flooding, that energy, and it's also a feeling of wanting to get away from that flooding. Because when I have too much stimulation like that, I haven't actually felt this for quite a long time because I do a lot in my daily life to limit stimulation. And I think I've kind of done that partly consciously and partly unconsciously as a safety mechanism for myself. Because when I'd get triggered for the true rape feelings, the overwhelm from that, I feel real feelings of like wanting to punch myself in the head. But it's the feeling, it's like wanting to get away. It's almost like if you were in extreme pain, you'd knock yourself out to not feel that pain. And it's like that. It's like, because it's too much, like the whole system is so deeply flooded in those moments that you can't cope with it. And I do think that's why we have fragmentation and soul loss. It's like a survival mechanism. It's like part of the body's awareness and the mind's awareness. Not awareness, like wisdom. Sorry, my words aren't working very well as well at the moment. It's the way that the body deals with that. It deals with that flood of energy coming in. It has to cut off. It's like creating airlocks. I've quite often, when I felt some of these things, I felt the analogy like of a submarine. If there's a hole in a submarine, it's like it's a state of emergency. All the alarms are going off in the body system, and like there's having to be cut off places, like the airlock doors are having to be closed off so that the water doesn't get into the hole of the submarine, so it doesn't flood it all, so it doesn't take out all the controls. And like our nervous system and our body and our emotional body and our mental body all work in a similar kind of way. If a trauma is too severe, there has to be a cut-off to protect the system, so there's a part of it that can go on. I'm kind of seeing like when a rocket takes off then as well, like the bottom part falls off, the middle part falls off, so that the end part that can carry on its mission. And it's like we're a little bit like that with these traumas. But for us, like, you know, like, well, parts do go for a while, but we have to try and reintegrate them. And like our bodies hold these traumas as well. It holds it in places. Like I became aware during what I've just been feeling that like I still have a massive, massive store of the overwhelm and all of what I experienced in that trauma stored like in my pelvis. And like I've never had sensation back like in my sacrum at the back, like by my hips. That's always been completely numb there. And I just feel like that's all, like my body had to store what happened because it's too much. And like we've got to trust our bodies and trust our bodies' wisdom with these things, because if something is too big to deal with, it's too big to deal with. You know, it's like if you tried to swallow something massive, it's just going to block your throat and it's going to kill you. You're not going to be able to breathe. And trauma is similar, and it's a tangible thing. You know, I'm partly, if I do put this out, I'm putting it out to show all of us that have gone through these things that we aren't weak. You know, we had something gigantic hit us, and anybody going through that same situation would have had the same effect on them as it's had on us. We are not weak when we have gone through trauma. We truly aren't. And people who don't understand this are just kind of lucky because they haven't experienced it. But if they had, they would be in the same or even a worse state than we are. So many of us who struggle with trauma like PTSD and anxiety and all these things, we're in that state for a reason, and that trauma needs respecting, and we need to love ourselves with this stuff. And a big part of the healing is having the compassion for ourselves and the understanding, the compassion for what our younger aspects went through, because these weren't small things. You know, if you've been traumatized, if you're depressed because you've had to cut off from yourself, you know, you've been through something really, really big, and that needs validation, that needs love, and that needs respect. And I hope I'll be able to put some videos out when I'm not just immediately having gone through something myself. I think I'll just leave it there at that place, because I need to give some love to myself from what I've just been feeling. You know, I need to give love and respect to my 16-year-old and just help my system soothe again. Just, these are big things. These really are big things, and if humanity can learn how to help, how we can all learn to help each other and help ourselves and bring that love and that compassion, that validation, and most importantly the help to release a gigantic store of fear, overwhelm, trauma, just energetic overwhelm within the system. If we can learn how to release that in a gentle and healing way, then humanity really will move forward a gigantic amount, because so many people are holding back a tidal wave of feeling in themselves, whether that's grief, whether that's fear, terror, guilt, shame, whatever it is. You know, most people are holding back a lot of emotion, and they're doing that through the addictions and the numbing and the foods and the distractions, and it stops us all being the true, flowing, gentle, creative, compassionate beings that we are. Thank you.